Good morning, everyone. Sheila here in Boho Daydreams, and welcome to my channel. Hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It is a bit of odd weather here, to say the least. We've had some really crazy rainstorms and thunder this morning. Apparently, we're supposed to get 3 inches of rain. And for you that live on the west coast and even the east coast might think, wow, that's not a lot of rain, but for the Bitterroot Valley here in Montana, that's a lot of rain. That's almost half of their annual rain that they receive here in a year. And it's likely due to the atmospheric river that the West Coast is experiencing. And it's very beautiful. Generally, we'll have clouds that pop over the mountaintops and then will drop their rain. But these ones are like fluffy, low-lying clouds that sit well below the mountaintops. And my husband was saying he's never really seen that before. Anyway, what I want to do today, because there's been a lot of requests and it's just really a lot of fun, I want to attempt on camera to do a paint video and do these painted cards the way I do them. They're so pretty. And I love them. They take a little bit of time and there's a little bit of prep work involved, and you'll need to work in one session. So I would recommend watching the video first before you try and do your painted papers. They'll be beautiful regardless, but you might save yourself some aggravation if you just watch the video first. So here's what they look like dry. I just painted those ones, but this is dry, and they're really pretty. They're kind of a little bit textured and a little variegated in the color. I love them, and I've done a lot of the little minis like that, and I've had a lot of requests to do them. Some of you have asked if I will just sell my little painted papers, but it's so much fun. And I think if you watch this video, you're going to find out that it is a lot of fun and you'll want to make them yourself. So some of the things that you're going to need your cards. And this is why it's really important that you get these really thick cardstock papers, the index cards, because there's a lot of moisture that they're going to receive in this process. And a regular index card will never withstand what we're about to do to our little index cards. You're going to need your gesso. This is the gesso I use, and I'm going to link all of what I'm using in the description box below. So you'll need some gesso, and I just put it into a little container. It's easier to use in a container. You're going to need your paints, and whatever color you're going to want to paint, that's what you're going to grab. So I want to do seaside colors. I need to do a little seaside mini. So I want a range of these colors like that, and this one. So I want these, and I don't know if I'll use all of them, but I might, because I do a little mixing with this package. With this one here, I mix up the colors a little bit. You'll also need a paint like this. You can use vanilla, antique parchment. I like to use these two because they look realistic when you're using them the way I'm going to use them. I use this one here when I'm doing pinks and peachy colors and maybe even the light blush. And I use this one for the light buttermilk. I use that for the other journals, the other little minis that I paint. You'll need a paintbrush and some water. which, by the way, I've spilt twice already on myself and all over the floor, all over underneath here. Crazy. And you're going to need a nice flat surface and parchment paper. Now, parchment paper is important, and it needs to be the waterproof parchment paper. And this is just baking parchment paper. And I found some on Amazon, an inexpensive box of parchment paper. So if you don't have any, I'm going to link that below too. So let's see, what else is there? I think that is basically it. So I'm going to kind of clean up a little bit and get things ready, and then we're going to start. Okay, so you're going to need your cards. And when you're doing this technique, you're only going to want to do 3 cards at a time. I do maybe 4 or 5, but I've done this several times now. But when you first start, you're only going to want to start with 2 or 3 cards at a time. Grab the paints that you're going to want to be using and shake them up. Get them nicely shaken up. All right, so for this, I'm going to use Cloudless Marina Mist. I love this one. Love, love, love that one. Oh, and I love this one too. Sea Glass. And what is this one? Beach Glass. So let's open them up. And I'm not fussy. I just dip them right out of the paint. Right out of the paint bottle. Oops. Let's get that off of there. All right. So I'm going to do my best to show you what I do. It turns out differently every single time. So you're going to perfect the technique yourself when you get to that point. But it's going to be important that you will work through whatever you start now. You've got to work through it to the point of the first complete step is done. So these paints here and this, that's your first step. And so you're going to need to work through it. So grab generous gesso and just start spreading that on. All over. And go over the sides. Go over the sides, go over everywhere. Like that. You want to paint the parchment. That's important. Get some of your blue paint. And I like to spread that in the middle like this. Paint the side a little bit. Oops, I might need a new brush. I am losing little hairs. You don't want the hair on your paper. And then I take and go up and down like this. Because I want the color kind of spread a little bit darker to the center and then a little bit lighter to the tops. And then I'm going to take a little more gesso like this. And you're going to want to just add the color until you're happy. Like that, and then up and down. There, let's see. Oh, might need just a little bit more color. Like that. All right. There we go. I'm going to take that one and set it off to the side. I don't use heat tools, but you can, but you have to be very, very careful. So if you want to use a heat tool to dry them a little bit, I'll link one in the description box, one that works well for this. Now I'm just going to add a little bit more gesso to this. All right. Let's grab another paper. Make sure I am in camera. My fingers were already painty because I have painted my pinks. All right, so let's see. What do I want to use? Okay, I'm going to try this one. The beach glass. Sorry about my hands in the way. I love the way that looks. So I'm just going to add just a little bit more paint here. Like that. Oh, the rain sounds so good. Maybe just a little bit more. Add some gesso too. There. Ooh, I like that. Yes. All right. Oh, and you're going to need a palette knife. Oh, where's my palette knife? Let's do one more. I might have to use a dryer. Give it a generous coat of that, the gesso. All right, what do I want? Do I want cloudless? No, I think I'm going to do the muted aqua. Yes. A little more gesso. Need a little bit more paint. There. Yes. Maybe a touch more. All right, let's lift that. Be careful so I don't lay them on top of each other, because I've done that before. This paper, it will tear. It will tear so easily. So I'm just going to say right now, after you've done like 4 or 5 of these, or done nearly one side, get yourself some fresh paper, because it's going to rip your paper. You just have to get yourself some fresh parchment paper. All right, so excuse me, just let that dry just a little bit. You can even blow on it a bit, but maybe I'll grab the heat gun and just dry it just a little bit. Don't want it too wet. And this isn't a blow dryer. This is a heat tool, and it will actually damage your work if you don't move it around. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. It still has a bit of a sheen on it, so I'm going to give that a little bit of a dry. I don't want to bubble the paint. All right, you don't want it completely dry, but you don't want it so wet that it just smears everything. So now we're going to start on the other side. So you're going to take this and you're going to smush it down into this. Let's see. Yeah. Smush it down good. Look at that. Isn't that great? And I pick it up where I can. And this is the step that if you're not careful as you go along, it's going to tear your paper. It'll take this top layer of paper right off. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And then I take my palette knife and I just kind of smooth it out. I don't want bumps. I want it smooth. Oh, ah! I already spilled that paint twice yesterday. Oh my goodness. Always an adventure. All right, so I'm just going to pop that over and I'm going to paint this side. You don't have to worry about that. That gets covered up. Although it's like really cool, it's not cool enough to be left alone. All right, so I want this one. There we go. I don't want too much. Oh, I love it. So by spreading it up and down, it kind of varies the color of the intensity of it. And then I'm just going to pick this up. Need to maybe smush it down a bit. Go over that a bit more. All right, I like it. I'm going to add a little bit more gesso. And parchment is the secret to this, because wax paper doesn't dry properly. It just kind of moves the paint around, and it just doesn't let it, it doesn't have the, it just doesn't stick to it. I want to give a shout out to someone. I don't really know who you are. A while back, I noticed that I had here on the YouTube channel that I had engaged or enabled this Snap chat or super chat or something like that. And what it did is it put a little heart with a $sign up in the area where you have your thumbs up and your share. There was a little heart, and somebody gave me a tip. I want to say thank you. I was like, oh my goodness, I got a little tip. That was really nice. So thank you very much, whoever did that. So if you like this and you want to contribute, I mean, it helps me, so I can keep doing these things. But yeah, thank you if you do. All right, so make sure it's dry. It's not quite dry. You don't want it dry, but you don't want it wet so that it just kind of smears around. Let's give it a little dry. All right. Now we're going to stick it in there. Push down on it. And pull it up. And maybe you want to just leave it at that, but I like a little bit more. So I go and pick up the color around, and it does that. It gives it kind of a whitewashed look. Got to be careful so I don't spill my paint. I already did that yesterday twice, and I've spilled my water twice before I started. Oh, see? And if you're not careful, that's what happens. It peels up your paper, which isn't the biggest deal, because I take and pop that back down with some gesso, but it will peel your whole layer off. So then I just do this and smush it down. With my palette knife. When you're looking for a palette knife, look for one that's at least 2 to 3 inches. It's flexible like this. and it tapers nicely. I have a plastic one too, and it just doesn't work the same. Those little white spots are where it lifted the paper. Now this is really beautiful. I love, love, love that. Because it lifted the paper, we're going to just give it a moment to dry. So let's go back to this one. This is the one we had just done. So I'm going to lay down a bit more gesso. Like that. And I go into an area that I haven't put any down yet, because this is kind of getting a little bit damp. And when it starts to get super damp, that's when it wants to wreck your papers. And that's why I have decided now that I'm going to make 13 papers instead of just 12. So if one gets wrecked, we still have 12 after the fact. Because yesterday was not a good day to be painting for me. All right, so let's just dry that a little bit. I should not even have these that close. All right, so that's really pretty. But I'm just going to add just a bit more. All right, and now we've got to do this side. And look at what you're doing too, so that you're not just stamping it all in one place, or picking up the bits all just in one place. Then I want to lay it down, make it flat. And it doesn't have to be completely flush, but you don't want the little bumpies sticking up, because they interfere with, excuse me, they interfere with, with the stamping and stuff like that. There. That's so pretty. That's really pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. All right, so let's go back to this one. That's the one I just lifted up the paint. So we're going to maybe just leave that, and we'll paint this side. And when you're painting your papers too, don't look at your papers as being beautiful or not beautiful, because it's only a very small portion of the whole project, because there's so many layers involved that it doesn't matter. There's so much going to be happening yet in your little mini that don't worry about what your papers look like. They're gonna be beautiful, in other words. All right. And this is a very time-consuming process. But I do it because I love, love, love the way it looks. All right, let's pop a little bit gesso down. All over the place. All right, I'm going to pop this side down. starting to lift. I like it. So you're going to lift. Ack! All right. Okay, I'm back. I had to change up my papers and change up my parchment paper and have a drink of coffee because things were kind of just sticking. It's very damp outside, and so things don't dry quite as nicely as they should. So we've got two of them. Two of them are really good, and the other one is still drying. So we're not going to work with this one right now. We've got two good ones to work with, and I really love the texture on them. I love it a lot. You can see there's sorry about the paint. There's a space that, lost the paint. It kind of peeled. I need to kind of smush this one down just a little bit, or even scrape it a bit. If there's bumps kind of sitting up, I just kind of scrape it a little bit, because I want it smooth. And this side too. All right. So now I want to give it a bit of dimension, because they're kind of a little bit monotoned. So I love this paint. This is like seaside patina to these papers. So I take this and I'm just going to add just a little bit of it here, like that. Sometimes I even paint it on, and I use this. I'll use this in on my papers itself. By the time I finished up painting 13 papers now, some of the papers are going to be painted in that color. And then I give it a little bit of gesso, like that. And I also take another color. Let me see, which one do I like? How about, yeah, we'll do a little bit of robin's egg blue. Oops, I need to shake that one. Shake it up. And just give it just a little bit. Just a little bit. Like that. And we don't want this in here. You want to remove those dried flakes. And then I'm just going to take and press into, I don't know if you can see it, it just gives it a little bit of a different shade. Looks a little antiqued. I love that. And just kind of all over the place, like that. And then take a little bit of this one. And it kind of just gives it depth. So pretty. Like that. You can see that. I don't know. I have so many lights going on right now, trying to get some light in here. I hope that it's showing up. So pretty. All right, so we'll do that again. Oh, it's very pretty. Add a little bit of gesso to dilute it a little bit, thin it out. You don't want it like a bright, bright color. I mean, if it does, that's okay. You just go over it again with another layer of paint. This is really pretty. I love that splotch. It almost looks marble, so I kind of will stay away from that. Dry it up a bit. So pretty. And it just kind of marbles it out a bit. Oh, it's so pretty. Gives it a bit of the dimension. Oh, I like that. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, it's so pretty. Looks a little marbly. And you're going to play around with this until you're happy. And you can add another color if you want. It doesn't matter. Oh, I like it. Looks so pretty. This is really a lot of fun, but it sure does take a lot of time. Get some marbly on there too. Oh yeah, I love it. All right, so let's see this side here. And you're just trying to pick up the almost dry paint. And that's it. You don't want to pick it up in like great big splotches. You just want a little dusting of it. Oh, yes. So we've got two good ones right here. Those are great. I love the coloring of them. So we're going to let them dry, and then I'm going to come back and give them the final touch. All right. So now they're sort of dry. Well, they're not dry. They're not going to be dry for a while. So let's get this closed up. So now we're going to put the finishing touch on these papers. They're so pretty, just like they are. I love them. I love the way the color has marbled initially, and then we've picked up some of the green patina, and then we picked up some of the blue that we used, and then there's just the others that we've painted. And you know, once you cut them in half and you add all the other bits and pieces, oh, it's just so pretty. You're going to have a hard time covering up your painted papers. I do. Okay, so let's finish up. So the last step, we don't need gesso anymore, unless we really mess things up. So we're going to need a bit of the light buttermilk. We need just a little bit of that. And water. You want to water that down. Super water. All right. And then you just go over the edges just slightly. Just lightly go over the edges. And then kind of just lightly give it the covering to the center. You just want it just blended like that. And if you take a look at these two now, it's just kind of aged it just gently. And you won't see the lines if you really water it down, you won't see the lines, and it just kind of it just blends everything together. And sometimes it'll draw underneath and both sides kind of get the edges. All right, so I want it really watered down. And then when they're dry, you can go back and touch up a little bit where you need to touch up. But essentially, that's it. And that's it. So I hope you all enjoyed the tutorial. I know it's a little bit time consuming, but as you do this a little bit more, you'll get so much faster at it. I can do 5 of them very quickly, probably 45 minutes. I get 5 done just because I kind of putz around at it. It's just super important that if you do have areas that are raised up, to just let them dry and pat them down. You know, put a little gesso underneath and just rub it down. You're never going to see it later at all. But you just want it to lie nice and flat. Like you'll see right there, that's an area. But after I've got everything completed, you're never going to see that again. I love doing this. I love, love, love this process. If you have any questions, I hope that you will just connect with me. I'm going to pop up my information. I'm Sheila Gingerich at scogill4@gmail.com. Facebook group is Boho Daydreams. I'm going to link that in the description box. And you'll see all the links to the products that I've used. I just want to let you know also that I am now an associate with Amazon. So when you do purchase the things that I've tried and I've used, you'll be getting the benefit of that, and generally the benefit of seeing me use it. And it also helps me to keep my costs down, keep my shipping down, so I can do things like this too. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will be connecting with you soon. Bye-bye.